everybody. It is great to gather as a community. For those of you who don't know me, I am a co-founder and the political director of Crimson Goes Blue. We are living in confusing, uncertain times, and I know I find great comfort in this community, a community committed to using our talents and power for our country and our democracy. Tonight, we will share some analysis of the election, a celebration of what CGB volunteers have done, our preliminary thoughts about what our work going forward might look like, and how we hope that all of you will continue to give your talents, passion, and resources to the cause. We want to have a real discussion tonight where we hear your thoughts and ideas. Your ideas will inform our strategic plan going forward, and tonight represents a beginning opportunity to engage you in the process. As we speak, please put questions and any comments that you have in the chat. As is our tradition, we will end the evening with a song and then an opportunity for further conversation in two breakout rooms. One about winning elections in the current political environment, and one about finding hope and creating community for sustaining us in these times. I want to acknowledge that all of us are going through a post-election grief process. Some of us are now ready to jump back in, and many of us need a break from this work. Regardless of where you are in that continuum, we're glad you're here. Though it seems a lifetime ago, we are only 6 weeks out from election 2024. There are many questions specifically about the election that cannot yet be answered well. And of course, the coming Trump presidency and the threats and uncertainty that loom concern us all. Crimson Goes Blue will wrestle with how to respond to the challenges ahead. No matter what the next administration brings, we still need to win elections, and that will remain at the core of what we do. Most of us also feel called to be the opposition to the MAGA authoritarianism and white Christian nationalism. We face the question of how best to do that, and we also need to be mindful of whether CGB is the best group for a given effort, or if there are other groups better suited. So let me begin with some election analysis, acknowledging that it is very early for a good analysis of what happened and very early to make plans for how best to compete in upcoming elections. There are many post-election narratives floating around. They range from Harris never had a chance given the post-COVID anti-incumbent environment that has resulted in losses for the incumbent party in democracies across the world, to the Democrats blew messaging again, and if only we had done X, we could have won, to none of the old tactics, canvassing, etc., made a damn bit of difference. I encourage us to avoid looking for simple answers to the complexity of voting behavior and to avoid rejecting everything we did in this election because we lost the majority. We lost the presidency and the Senate and did not take back the House, and that is deeply consequential. But this was a very close election. There was no landslide or big mandate for MAGA. We always knew this was going to be a very close election, but I believe that this presidential election would not follow the usual patterns. Because Trump was so evil and Americans had experienced him and rejected him before, many of us were lured by the thought that negatives like Biden's low approval rating and the majority of Americans believing the country was on the wrong track would be overshadowed by opposition to the Dobbs decision, the accomplishments of the Biden administration, and the anti-MAGA forces that had us on a winning streak since 2020. It was especially easy to believe that when Kamala entered the race. But in the end, 2024 did follow the usual patterns for a presidential election. Many now argue that the headwinds that have moved electorates to the right in democracies across the globe were too much to beat back, and that Democrats did an amazing job of keeping the election as close as we did. Harris lost Pennsylvania by 1.7 percentage points, Michigan by 1.4, and Wisconsin by 0.9. Winning those 3 states would have been enough to give her a victory. In the days after Harris lost, many of us questioned whether our so-called superior ground game had mattered at all. This is an important question for us going forward. What we do know now is that Democrats performed better in the states we focused on than in the rest of the country. There has been a lot of discussion about Harris losing Democratic votes, and she did perform worse than Biden's historic numbers in 2020. But so did Trump. While the country as a whole moved 6 points to the right compared to 2020, in the battleground states where Democrats invested more time and money, the movement to the right averaged 3.5 points. And you can see the range here in the battleground states. We will need much more analysis to determine if that better performance in the battlegrounds had to do with our ground game, our messaging strategy, or something else entirely. What is much more curious is what happened down ballot. Typically, Senate races are won by the party that wins the presidency in a given state. In this election, we held Senate seats in 4 states that Harris lost. It suggests that under certain conditions, we can successfully fight a red wave in the battleground states, and that while down ballot races usually get a boost from a top of the ticket winner, the opposite is not true. We saw no evidence of reverse coattails. We always knew that the House was where we had the most opportunity to make gains, and indeed we made gains in the House, with 2 seats decided by just a couple hundred votes. Republicans hold now a mere 5-seat House majority of 220 to 215. House Republicans have struggled to be disciplined and united, so it will be hard for them to get much done with such a slim majority. And for at least a few months, they will be down 3 seats until special elections are held to replace Trump's cabinet nominees. So let me make a few observations about challenges that we face. Disinformation, social media, and the new ways voters obtain news had a very significant impact on voters' views. The legacy media, which most of us have relied on, no longer reaches the typical voter. Voters are affected by ambient information, however false. The new media is more powerful than facts. We have long believed that access to accurate information will convince voters about the promise of electing Democrats. We have fought misinformation. But we are in a cynical, low information environment where many Americans don't believe information that contradicts what they think they know. A majority of late deciders in this election voted for Trump, and a large proportion of them were not misinformed by right-wing media, but rather almost completely uninformed about politics at all. 91% of districts without a local news source went for Trump. With a lack of information about the candidates, voters who weren't happy with the state of their lives voted against the party in power. We are going to have to find a way to compete again in a radically altered media environment, and we must stand up to the growing threats to a free press. It may be the single most important thing to do to regain a Democratic majority. And yet, I don't yet have a clear vision of how our community of, let's face it, older, elite intellectuals can address this challenge. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that during tonight's discussion. We lost the working class in this election. I think we saw 2 approaches to winning over those voters: the cultural argument and the argument about the economy. Republicans successfully made the cultural case, the anti-elite, anti-woke, tough guy, you're losing the America you once knew case. Democrats, on the other hand, argued that the economy was improving, that Biden had done so much for workers. That argument either wasn't heard or proved to be tone deaf when people felt they couldn't afford groceries or housing. Despite the fact that in the last 30 years, Republicans have engaged in union busting and giving tax breaks to the wealthiest, working class voters no longer see the Democrats as their party. We certainly heard as we knocked doors that people did not feel Democrats had brought them relief. The cultural working class identity promoted by MAGA Republicans won over the economic identity that had previously worked for Democrats. This is a top challenge we need to address if we are going to have a large enough coalition to win elections down the road. The dramatic gains that Trump made with Latinos and young people, particularly young men, unraveled the coalition that had gotten us 51% of the vote on average over the last 4 presidential elections. We will need to imagine and build a new majority coalition now. So, before I talk about the future, I want to take a minute to celebrate the work and contributions of so many of you. We had more than 200 members go canvassing on multi-day trips or single-day trips, and we knocked over 25,000 doors this cycle. And here you can see just samples of all the people who participated in these trips. We held 50 phone banks with more than 150 callers. In 1 week, we spoke to over 1,000 voters. In partnership with the Vote Pro Pros, more than 75 members of our largest team, our voter protection team, participated in over 10 projects to ensure the integrity of elections and make sure that every vote was counted. And we raised more than $2 million from 1,477 donors for grassroots groups and dozens of candidates in close, winnable, underfunded races. We raised way more than we had at any time before. We have really built something here at Crimson Goes Blue, and we want it to persist and grow. It is hard to quantify the sense of shared mission, belonging, and camaraderie that makes participating in CGB so special. But there will be immediate opportunities to support Democrats in elections in 2025 and 2026. Special elections and midterms have lower turnout and a more engaged electorate. That means a good ground game can have a more significant impact than it can in a presidential year. We will have opportunities to make a difference in elections in 2025, particularly in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Wisconsin. In 2026, we will be favored to win back the House, and we also need to take the opportunity to chip away at the current Republican Senate majority, holding on to competitive seats in states like Georgia and working to flip control in Maine and North Carolina. In the next 4 years especially, we know that there will be a great need for promoting democracy and opposing Trump and his damaging policies. What we don't yet know is how and which efforts Crimson Goes Blue should participate in. What is our community suited to do? How does the anti-elite, anti-intellectual political environment affect our ability to contribute? What efforts interest our members the most? Crimson Goes Blue has had a very clear mission and a very clear lane in which we do our work. We will continue to work on elections and rebuilding a Democratic majority coalition. Our tactics may change given the current political and media environment, and they will need to be informed by what we learn as we continue to analyze this past election. Early next year, we will publish a report of the results of the elections that we supported through our time and funds this cycle. We will do a deeper dive into how our CGB portfolio performed. Spoiler alert, we supported the most competitive races. At a future gathering, I hope we'll have more analysis of the gender gap, the youth vote, the Latino vote, and the Black vote. While I've read a lot already, there is so much data to look at before we have a clear picture. The dramatic gains that Trump made with Latinos and young people, particularly young men, unraveled the coalition that has gotten us 51% of the vote on average over the last 4 presidential elections. We need to imagine and build a new majority coalition. I want to end this part of my remarks with some hopefulness. I know that I find it in the activists who are still showing up by the thousands at post-election Zoom organizing calls that I've been at, and in the Democratic bench that will mark a passing of the torch to a new generation of leaders. That bench is deep. I couldn't fit any more than these 12 on this slide, but there are others. And I hope you, if you don't know everybody's face, you will soon. And of course, all of you give me hope. We look forward to building our next chapter together. I'm going to turn over the floor now to my good buddy and co-director, Lisa, who is going to describe the newest initiative we're hatching to create new capacity for the work ahead. And then we will open it up for you to share your thoughts and questions. All right, take it away, Lisa.
Oh, thank you, Jana, and welcome everybody. I want to start by echoing Janet's thank you to our community. You've been the foundation and the linchpin of our strategy and our results. And serving in community isn't just a source of sustenance. It is by definition one of the ways to defeat authoritarians, because they want to divide us in order to maintain their power. But we've heard that you want to persist and stay connected. Among our members, Crimson Goes Blue has always relied on a group of super volunteers to fuel our small, nimble two-person shop. Now let's take a brief look at this org chart. Each of the core functions in blue, ranging from our political organizing to our member recruitment, to our communications and our financial management, have been led by volunteer organizers and subject matter experts. But up until now, our political strategy has originated from a small and central leadership team. I'm here to share a new opportunity for your volunteer leadership to meet the moment. Tonight, we're launching a pathway for your involvement in our political work that we're dubbing Laboratories of Innovation. Although Crimson Goes Blue has always supported innovative strategies for winning election and protecting our democracy, we feel it's time to formalize and expand those efforts by sourcing and engaging our members' ideas and their leadership. Consistent with Crimson Goes Blue's mission to elect Democrats and to protect our democracy, these laboratories of democracy, these laboratories, as we call them, will have 3 goals. The first is to promote innovation. We need and are excited to tap into the membership for new ways to have impact that will strengthen, deepen, or diversify our more traditional campaign efforts. Secondly, we want to leverage what makes us unique. I call this maybe leaning into our Harvardness by taking advantage of our members' skills, connections, and influence and authority in order to make greater impact. And last but not least, we need in order to face the new challenges that we are working to tackle, we've got to expand our ability to design and execute beyond our tiny core staff. So arguably, Crimson Goes Blue itself was a laboratory of innovation at its founding, when several classmates decided to create a first-time effort to organize alumni to defeat Trump in 2020. There was no playbook locally and none nationally for our pop-up initiative then. And there's also exciting precedent for adopting laboratories of innovation as a primary element of our strategy now. Let me share one story about that. After the 2020 election came the Stop the Steal craziness and the January 6th attack on the Capitol. It soon became clear that the integrity of future elections was at stake, as election deniers became candidates for the offices that would control election administration. But each state has different rules for which electeds control election administration. In some, it's the governor. In some, it's the Secretary of State. In others, it's the state legislature. And in response, a small group of Crimson Goes Blue members who dubbed themselves the Anti-Authoritarian Working Group came together to develop a ground-breaking guide and original algorithm to determine which offices control elections in which states, and to prioritize working on those elections that were going to be competitive and where the Republican candidate was an election denier. In response to the broad question, how can we defeat authoritarianism, emerged this practical approach. And the resulting guide helped guide Crimson Goes Blue's election strategy, and we also shared it with other groups nationally who are working on protecting the freedom to vote. The 2022 midterms resulted in the defeat of key election deniers in every battleground state, and we believe this project played a part. Right now, the Laboratories of Innovation is a concept. It's not a plan, and we're considering the all-important how of making this work at a larger scale, and that's going to be part of our upcoming strategic process. But we are already clear about some of the ways the Laboratories of Innovation will work. We know we will rely on our members to play primary leadership roles in organizing these projects, and that the feasibility of these projects is going to depend on other members. And we know that after providing our blessings, we will provide thought partnership about how to advance ideas, help our innovators find partners or other partners, either within or beyond our community for organizing. We'll give access to the membership to help gather people and resource. We'll include laboratories on our communication platforms, and we'll lend the CGB brand to these initiatives to communicate with the outside world. And we've already, surprise, surprise, got a few impact items on our wish list for your leadership. Here are some things we'd love some members to focus on developing. Vetting community-based mobilization groups for inclusion in the portfolio, monitoring right-wing media so we know what the other side is saying and promoting ranked choice voting, improving the quality and approach to canvassing from what we learned on the ground in 2024, and also scaling partisan voter registration. So we've decided we're not going to wait until we've figured everything out before inviting your participation. Please email us. If you have a project idea you'd like to develop or help develop that's consistent with our mission or speaks to a need or opportunity in this new electoral environment, and that you believe will capitalize on the knowledge, skills, and time of our members, we want to know. If you've got a broad question, if you've got an idea for a particular initiative or something in between, send Janet a brief email and we promise to respond. And also, if you happen to be an expert about incubating innovation, we'd love to hear from you about that as well. Janet?
All right. I'm going to stop
Now's the
sharing
time for
my
questions.
screen. Yeah. So, we want to open the floor to your questions and your thoughts. We have about 20 minutes. We're looking for questions about issues or opportunities that have broad interest or relevance to the group. But we want to hear from a lot of people, and we want to not just have you ask questions, but also hear your thoughts about where we should go and what the times call for. If you can use the raise hand function, as Laura Lenehan already has, that will really help. It's at the bottom of your screen, and just click it. And Leisha where are you, Alicia? Alicia, who's one of our founders, she's going to kind of moderate the Q&A. So she'll call on you and then just unmute yourself and tell us what you're thinking.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. I guess I will start with the first person who raised her hand, Laura Lenahan.
Hi, everybody, Radcliffe, class of 1974. I'm very glad to hear that you're thinking about the effectiveness of canvassing. I did a lot. I wasn't sure that I was effective. But the point I want to make also was alluded to. One of my closest friends is a physician from the Dominican Republic, highly educated, very intelligent, was absolutely beside herself about how the Latino Hispanic vote went Republican. I'm in New York, country where there are a lot of Latinos. We really have to I don't know if but that's a huge issue.
Yeah, I agree with you, Laura. We're chatting today about trying to get Ruben Gallego, who's a Harvard grad, to come talk to us at one of our next events, because he successfully won in Arizona, which went far, the farthest to the right of all the swing states. So yeah, it's something for sure we need to figure out.
Great, thank you. The next question goes to our Pennsylvania State Representative, Arvid Venkat, from class of 6.
Yeah, hello everyone. Sorry I'm not on camera. I'm in transit, but I just wanted to first of all say thank you. I met Crimson Goes Blue. I didn't know you guys existed until I met many of you at a canvass in a very tough state house district here in Western Pennsylvania that the Democrats did manage to hold. And as a result of that, we kept control of our state house. So not all the results were terrible in November. I just wanted to plant the seed, and I mentioned it in the chat, that it is very, very important, speaking about Pennsylvania, that we don't just return to Pennsylvania in 2028, when Pennsylvania again is going to be the swing state just based on the electoral college votes and the like. We saw a lot of bad results in Pennsylvania this cycle, but there is a significant opportunity to change that here and in other swing states in the elections that occur in 25 and 26 and beyond. To get to the point on canvassing, I know there are some other Pittsburgh people on. They know that I'm pretty obsessive about canvassing, and it makes a huge difference. I'm the first Democrat to represent my district in the state house, and it's directly as a result of canvassing. So I would strongly urge you to look at a strategic initiative to focus on state level races over the next certainly 2 years, in addition to federal races, and to look at where are the opportunities to set the table, so to speak, for 2028.
Thanks, Arvind. It was great meeting you on the campaign trail. That was really fun. Alicia, I think you skipped Karen.
No, I think well, I have her third on my list, so she.
Okay.
I saw her. I saw her third. Sorry about
Excellent.
that. Karen Brooks.
Hi there. So I'm sitting in my car in a parking lot in San Francisco, and I'm going to turn off the lights so my battery doesn't go dead as soon as I'm finished with this. All right, so I am 60 years old. Ever since 1982, 83, and 84, I've been registering people to vote, including at Harvard. With a committee at the Kennedy School, we registered undergrads from every 50 states. All I'm trying to say is, today, is somebody looking at the playbook, the long-term playbook that the right wing and Republicans have had, which includes gerrymandering at the, local, state, blah, blah, blah level. Like the last speaker, I'm so sorry, I've already forgotten your name. I believe you're a state senator or representative from Pennsylvania, but yes, we need to look at not just state level and federal level issues, but local. Now, we, meaning the bigger we, maybe not Crimson Glows Blue, but who is writing the playbook? Because, I mean, just looking at the playbook, I can see what they've done. You know, all the gerrymandering, all the influences on even school districts.
Yeah, Karen, I
all,
think,
you
I
know,
think you're right. that
I'm
there's-
worried. I'm worried.
Yeah. And I think we're hoping that, you know, there's new stuff coming. I mean, one, for the first time, we are able to raise enough money that we should be able to use it to have more consistent organizing. The Democratic state parties are just each one on their own, and there's really a lack of standards and making sure that happens. I learned just this week that of the 50 state parties, only 10 of them have a chair who is paid. That's insane, right? One of our members, Ben Wickler, is running for chair, and I hope he or somebody who has his philosophy gets elected to that, because he has a year-round yeah, you know, talking to people, getting the issues from the beginning, and he's really turned around Wisconsin. So you're right. And I think a lot is up in the air now in terms of the playbook, but there's a lot of people thinking about it. And I hope that it's going to be coordinated in a good way. Thanks.
Great. Next, Stephanie Latour.
Oh, thanks. All right, I'm gonna try not to, I know I can't take too much time, but really briefly, I think that, you know, since FDR, a big, huge part of the Democratic coalition is working class people, and, you know, and generally, the Democratic Party has, well, as Janet's chart showed, that is not seen as helping, you know, the working class. And it's not just perception. It's true that their priorities have not continued to be in that direction as they were under the New Deal. And so, and I think that, and I don't blame Kamala Harris for losing the presidential election. I think she ran a pretty good campaign, but I think the fact that she, you know, focused on such relatively small middle class things like, you know, home ownership, and didn't really, you know, emphasize, I don't think I heard her mention it once, raising the minimum wage anyway. So I think just in the big picture, we can't just worry about like, oh, is the Democrats' message getting across, or are we turning out Democratic voters? We have to make sure that the party actually prioritizes certain issues that really make a difference. And anyway, I have a whole other thing related to campaign financing and blah blah blah. It's too much to go into right now, but you know, I'm sure we're all appalled that like Elon Musk is calling the shots. He wasn't even elected to anything, but he's anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop now. But just
Yeah,
the main
no,
point is:
these are really, really important things. Really important. Thank you.
is there anything we can do to make the DNC, you know, come to their senses? And
I think the answer to that is probably yes.
I hope.
Okay, we only have a few more minutes, so everybody keep your comments brief, but this has all been, I think, really, really, really helpful and interesting. Carol Emmert from Oakland.
Hi, thanks everybody. I have two questions actually. When Trump won this time, I have a 19-year-old son and he had just voted for the first time. And I, you know, very much believe, this might be overly pessimistic, that I feel like it's unlikely he will have that chance again in the near term. I mean, we saw January 6th when Trump lost the election, and we saw him saying that he would not accept a free and fair result. And now he's going to be the president for 4 years, and he's going to be able to stack the system even more than he has. And so we keep talking about future elections. I would love to have hope that there are going to be future fair elections. And so I would love anybody to give me that hope. So that's question number one. And question number two is I would love for Janet to unpack her recommendation of ranked choice voting. I live in Oakland, and we had a very good candidate for mayor last time, but he didn't quite get it. And the second choice person got it. And she was, everybody's second choice for a reason. She was not a great candidate, and she's already been recalled. So I'd like to hear the positive about ranked choice
So
voting and why
I think the
Debbie-
main positive of ranked choice voting is that you can eliminate the spoilers, right? So the Ralph Naders, if we'd had ranked choice voting, Al Gore would have been president. But there are a million different ways to do ranked choice voting. And so way beyond sort of my scope of knowledge and tonight's event, but I think it's one of the things that we thought might be a really good thing for folks to explore and recommend and see, how we can promote that, because it does counteract some of the problems with gerrymandering, and with people really wanting to vote for somebody who's, say, very left-wing or very right-wing, but doesn't want to then make the more middle of the road candidate lose because they've, given their vote to whoever it is. So that's where it is the most effective.
Okay, great. Gil Pimentel, class of '84.
Hi there. Well, a few different observations. Number one, we have to stop talking about Latino voting, because there is no such thing as the Latino vote. The Latino vote is like saying the American vote. Puerto Ricans are overwhelmingly voting Democrat, and Cubans are overwhelmingly voting Republican. Mexican Americans are your swing vote. And there's a big difference between California Mexicans and Texas Mexicans. So stop talking about the Latino vote as though it's a monolith. I will point out Kamala Harris got 56% of that vote, of the Latino vote overall. So what people are worried about is that she didn't get as high as her predecessors did, but she still won a majority of Latinos. Where she's lost a lot of ground is in with Latino men. But even that, she still won Latino men. In terms of things that we can focus on, one big thing in the Latino community is that the amount of disinformation is incredible. Latino talk radio is so overwhelmingly conservative and not subject to I mean, it makes Fox News look left wing. And so the major sources, the major academic people that are focusing on disinformation and how it spread, the Stanford Internet Lab and also at the Kennedy Center, they've been dismembered in different ways, or they're being faced with so many lawsuits and legal challenges and harassment from Congress that it makes it really hard for them to do what they do. So one thing that we could consider, particularly those of us who have significant resources, is supporting the people who are monitoring internet disinformation and addressing that. That's number one. Number two is that what's going to be happening in the next couple of years is not in the legislature, but in the courts. So one thing that Crimson Can Go Blue is put together a subgroup of really great litigators who are maybe they're retired, maybe they're ex-Harvard law professors or whatever, but people who can focus on key issues that are going before the courts, writing amicus briefs, and doing that sort of thing. And then in the third thing is for us as a group to help Democrat efforts to recruit candidates, because one great thing about Kamala Harris's search is that for vice president is it revealed we have a deep bench, so we've got to support whoever that is. But let's support them on every level, on the congressional level, on the state legislator level. Raise up people who and highlight their names. And then the third thing is, don't give up, because our country is going in this crazy fucked up direction, but it does so on the basis of tiny margins. And
That's right.
And so, if we can be the margins that makes a difference. So part of what we need to do at Crimson Goes Blue is do what you and Lisa have been doing so magnificently, which is just to figure out what races could make the difference. And to really focus our efforts, particularly in the House of Representatives and the Senate, pour resources into those things that are gonna flip those two areas.
Thank you, Gil. And if I implied that the Latino vote is some monolith, it's not. So thank you for saying that. So we had planned to, move to our next part, but I want to get the last 4 people in, like in 1 minute each, if you can. We are also going to stick around after the songs and stuff for people who want to continue talking, at least for a little bit. But this is just the beginning of us thinking. And for those of you who've brought up ideas, what we hope is that you're going to say, I want to be part of a group that's working on X, because Lisa and I, we have led what we're leading, and we're not going to be the engine to take on all kinds of new projects. We need more volunteer leaders. So, we will support you, of course, but that's really our hope. Okay, Scott Waterman, I think you're next.
Oh, thank you, Janet. Yeah, much as I would love to be the person to reassure Carol Emmert that that in a couple of years and in 4 years our democratic institutions will proceed apace, I'm afraid I'm not that person. But what occurs to me regarding concerns that I have and that we all have about the way authoritarianism is going to creep into our lives is the extent to which we're going to know that it's happening and in what ways it's happening, and the ways that the people of the country writ large can be aware of exactly what's happening. And we're already seeing, well before the inauguration, intimidation of political opponents of the incoming regime, intimidation of news organizations whose coverage of the incoming regime is already self-censoring, let alone being censored from without. And I don't know whether or not this lends itself to a Crimson Goes Blue effort. I suspect maybe it does, but I'm really wondering about being informed and monitoring the landscape so that we know what authoritarianism is doing at any given.
And it's really important that we don't obey in advance. That all these people who are handing him money and whatever because they just think he has the power, they're handing him the power. That's like exactly what authoritarians want to do at the beginning. So we need to fight that in a big way. So yes, Meg.
Hi Lisa and Janet and everybody. It's great to see you all. Quick question. So I really put my energy into phone banking, and Janet, is this something you're still unpacking as to how effective phone banking is at this stage of the game? Because I can honestly say that even though there were times I felt really good about it, I also feel like I just had no sense of whether there was any effectiveness. And if you do decide to, obviously we hope to continue phone banking, but I'd love to see how it can evolve to a better state, especially in what we're asking people or what we're putting forth. And I'd be happy to be involved in that aspect because I think it hasn't evolved to where people are now. That's my opinion. Not sure if you agree with that.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I think that's true probably of all our tactics, and they all need to be looked at. What we do know is that in smaller races, so down ballot, not presidential years, all those tactics are more effective, right? Because turnout is lower in general, right? So everybody you can move. I think we'll be doing it more to the down ballot races than the like calling for the presidency. But yeah, it's a big question.
Yeah,
John.
I would add that it's very important too at these smaller special elections and things that people don't know about. It has been very helpful. I think those of us with Phone Bank, you have these conversations and people aren't informed. They don't know what it's about. They're tuning it out or they didn't even know it was happening. So in those cases, I think we're really playing a helpful role.
Yeah, and in 2025, there's a couple like Supreme Court races. There's another one in Wisconsin that, could tip it back to a conservative balance if we don't win it. So those ones I think are where we'll focus. And thank you, Leisha, our co-leader of our phone banks. John?
Hey, everybody. Hey, Janet, I got a question for you to noodle on about how we do outreach and incorporate more participation by working class folks in the party itself. And I'm not sure that's something for Crimson Goes Blue or not. And my thinking on this is informed by this recognition that the party has become recognized or thought of as the party of elites. I love elites, they're great, but we need to do better than just elites. And I put a couple book recommendations in the chat. I've been sort of really kind of blown away by Thomas Frank's work. Books like What's the Matter with Kansas, Listen Liberal, The People Know, just fabulous books that chart the sort of the takeover of the Democratic Party by elites versus populists and working class folks. And that's great background. The other background that I bring to the question is my participation in local, sort of local and county level Democratic Party committees, where I'm seeing us doing a fabulous job of incorporating participation by LGBTQ plus folks, and to a lesser extent, minorities, people of color, although I still think we have work to do there. But I've realized we're doing almost nothing to reach out to, union folks, non-unionized labor, agricultural workers. My son works at a grocery store. These are the people that need to feel like they have a voice in the Democratic Party, and we're doing absolutely nothing to do that.
I think that, the working class is a big question, and I think it's on our agenda. So let's get us together to look at all of it. So I think what we're going to do now is complete the rest of our program, but as we planned, Lisa and I are going to stick around after 9 to continue this conversation, and Amy Brenneman and Sabrina Peck are going to do another breakout. So we'll explain that to you more, but we know it's getting late, and you guys can reach out to us, email us with your ideas, all that stuff. If you can't stick around, we are really, really accessible to you. I hope anyone will tell you. So I want to introduce the president of our board, one of the most charming and just terrific people to work with, Monty Brule.
Thank you, Janet. There is an African proverb that says, if you want to travel fast, go alone. If you want to travel far, go together. As I have listened to each of you this evening, my heart has swelled and my spirit has been renewed. Crimson Goes Blue started almost 5 years ago as just an idea. Then we became an organization. Along the way, we managed to build a community. And now tonight, having been forged in the fire of our shared experience, we stand together as a strong and unbreakable family. We are bound together by our passion, commitment, and faith in this amazing democracy. This past election may have left us a little battered and tattered, but we must get up, dust ourselves off, and prepare for battles and victories to come. As Vice President Harris has asked of us, we must continue to be joyful warriors for the just and righteous cause of fighting for our democracy. I am thankful for the opportunities that lie before us. Crimson Goes Blue is a powerful band of Harvard people, 2,600 strong. But we have just barely scratched the surface of our potential. Let's work together to expand this tent of ours. Let's share with classmates, favorite professors, friends, really anyone in the Harvard community about the amazing bonds that we have formed. And let's invite them to join our family. We have room for them, and we need them. We need the strength of their passion, vision, and collaboration. We don't travel alone. We travel together. Now that this election is over, there's a lot of talent in the Democratic Party that can be redeployed. This is an incredible recruitment opportunity for us. Yes, we are a little tired from the demands of campaigning. Yes, we are shocked and disappointed by not winning the White House. However, this is not the time to let up. This is the time to redouble our efforts. There is a window of opportunity in which we can pivot, develop new winning strategies, and build teams of Crimson Goes Blue activists across the broad landscape of the Harvard community, all around the United States. This is our opportunity, and the time is now. For 4 years, MAGA Republicans have been junkyard dogs, snarling, barking, and chasing the cars of progress that have gone by. Now the junkyard gates are open, and the MAGA dogs are not only free to chase the cars of government, they appear to be catching them. Pete Hegseth at DOD, RFK Jr. at HHS, and Mike Johnson possibly shutting down the government and losing his speakership. You can't make this stuff up. So please join me in engaging in just a few minutes of gleeful schadenfreude as the MAGA clown car unloads on Capitol Hill. But then it will be time for us to get back to work as joyful warriors. As Crimson Goes Blue takes the next 100 days to refine, renew, and refresh, I would like each of you to take 3 things to heart. First, let's all tell our Harvard friends about Crimson Goes Blue and this amazing family of ours, and invite them to join us. There really is strength in numbers, and it would be great if we could increase ours. Next, if you're able, we would like each of you to consider stepping up to take a leadership role at Crimson Goes Blue. We need your talents and energy to develop communications and messaging, alumni engagement, political action, fundraising, and a host of as yet undefined opportunities. Finally, we need your continued financial support, not for the portfolio, but for Crimson Goes Blue itself. We need to have fuel in the tank as we pivot and get ready for the midterm elections in 2026, right around the corner. Your generosity makes everything that we do together possible. There is a link in the chat right now that will allow you to contribute just tonight. There's no time like the present. Thank you so much. Your gifts are very much appreciated. Margaret Mead famously said, "Never underestimate the power of a small group of committed people to change the world. In fact, it is the only thing that ever has." Are you committed? Are you ready to change the world? Then let's go, family. Let's do this. Thank you.
Monty, thank you so much. I feel like you need to run again for office. But absent that, thank God you're working with us. So when Margaret Mead thought about small groups who would change the world, I wonder if she gave due credit to musicians. Whether or not they were part of her vision, they're certainly part of ours, because we know that music has the power to delight, uplift, unify, and motivate. And since our founding, talented Harvard musicians have contributed their talents to each of our events. And so tonight, I'm thrilled to welcome the Harvard Yardbirds, or rather, as they hope to be called tonight, the Harvard Yardbirds Light, since the whole group can't join us. But they're back to regale us momentarily with a popular holiday tune. By way of very brief introduction, the Harvard Yardbirds are an a cappella group composed of LA-based alums who have sung with a cross-section of Harvard a cappella groups spanning all the way back to the 1970s. Their repertoire features mixed voice arrangements ranging from choral classics to Gershwin, American songbook standards, and popular songs. And typically they perform live. They're doing this as a very special gift to us. They're active in singing around LA at both private gigs and public events such as festivals and parties. So if you're interested in maybe bringing them on in your home or office or civic ever, you can contact Patty Wu, whose name is in the chat. Once this uplifting tune ends, please stay for a moment for a close and to learn about the two informal conversations we're hosting this evening. One is about our political situation. This dialogue will continue. And the other is about ways to stay strong and sane for the battle ahead. So without further ado, and with a heart filled with gratitude, I am pleased to welcome the Harvard Yardbirds.
Plum 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 plum
That coming
plum 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 plum. Do-do-do-do. La 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 la. La 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 la. Do-do-do-do. Plum 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 plum. Do-do-do-do. La la la. Plum la la la. Plum la la la. Plum la la. Plum la 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 la. La la la. Plum la 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 la. La 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 la. Plum la la
Thank you.